There are some mistakes that you're probably making as a beginner lifter that you just have to avoid in order for you to maximally build the optimal amount of muscle. So we're going to go over these 5 biggest mistakes that you are probably making as a beginner and how to correct them. Now, the first mistake that you're probably making is not implementing progressive overload. Now, what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is basically where you train harder than the last session each time, be it through added weight or added reps. These things are called progressive overload. Basically, you train harder than you did last time. This is crucial for building muscle because as you build muscle, you will become stronger, and in order to build new muscle, you have to up the intensity to actually build new muscle. Now, the mistake you're making is probably just doing the same shit over and over again. You're not progressing on your reps, you're not progressing on the weight. You're doing the same amount of weight for the same amount of reps each and every session for like 2 months straight. This is not implementing progressive overload. You are not doing progressive overload like this. Now, how can you implement it? So what I do is I have a training app where I input the weight that I use for each exercise and each set, and exactly how many reps I do each set. It shows the amount of reps and the weight that I did last time so that I can actually make sure that I am doing more reps than I did the last session. So I advise you to get some sort of app where you can put in your workouts, some sort of journal that you can write in, anything for you to track your workouts to, one, help with motivation, because if you're tracking your workouts, you are actually putting in data for your new identity that you are a weightlifter, which is good. But you can also see exactly how many reps you do, exactly what weight you're using. It's just easier overall. Now, what you do after that is you do 1 extra rep for each set the next session. So let's say you have an upper session on Monday and you did 13 reps of bench press for 40 kilograms. Well, on Thursday, when your next upper body session is there, you will then do 40 kilograms for 14 reps on bench press. That will be progressive overload. You will have implemented progressive overload there. So you just keep adding 1 extra rep until you reach the upper end of your rep range. That is where you then add weight onto your exercise. Then you just repeat again, increase in 1 rep each session, and then when you reach the upper end, add more weight. If you continually do this, then you will be sure to implement progressive overload. You will always be progressively overloading. Now, the second mistake that you're probably making as a beginner is neglecting certain muscle groups. You aren't training small muscle groups because you don't see them having a big impact on your physique. Well, I'm here to tell you that small muscle groups are the ones that have the biggest impact on how your physique looks. Muscles like calves, glutes, traps, and forearms are what really show your physique. They really make you look different from every other person. So you need to make sure you're actually training these types of muscles. I know as guys, we tend to neglect glutes in our leg day workouts. Well, let's not do that, because glutes are essential for, stabilization. They're a key muscle in your core, especially your spine, and actually having good spinal health. So don't neglect these muscles, especially calves. Don't neglect calves. Forearms are a big one too. Forearms are what make you look the most masculine. So if you want to look very masculine, be sure to train forearms. You don't want any imbalances in your physique, so make sure that the smaller muscle groups are still being trained. You don't want an imbalanced physique. Now, the third mistake you're probably making is low intensity. You are stopping way too early on your sets. You're stopping 5 reps before you reach failure. Well, I'm sorry to say, you're not going to be building muscle that way. You need to actively get close to failure to actually build muscle. You can't just stop only when you feel the burn a little bit. That is not failure. You're not close to failure yet. You're not going to be getting anything out of that set. That's not a working set. That's more like a warm-up set. Failure is where the growth lies. Failure is where you will achieve your muscle. That is where you will have mechanical tension breaking down your muscles so that you can build new, stronger, and bigger muscles. You need to reach failure. Now, your idea of failure is probably flawed. You don't know what failure actually looks like because you haven't gone that far yet. So I encourage you to try one session where you go so hard on the intensity. I don't care if the weight is moving a centimeter per second. You're still not at failure yet. Failure is where you fail the rep. You don't complete the rep. That is failure. I don't care if it takes a minute to complete the rep. You still need to do it. You're still not at failure yet. A minute of a rep is going to give you so much muscle growth. It is unbelievable. So make sure you're going at least 1 or 2 reps from failure to actually build muscle. If you want to optimize, go all the way to failure. But this will be fatiguing. It will probably have a bigger chance of injury on your body. So I would say probably for safety reasons, just go 1 rep before failure. But make sure it is actually 1 rep before failure. Now, the 4th mistake you're making is probably having too much volume on certain muscle groups and too little volume on other muscle groups. An example of this would be you get 30 sets of chest per week because you just love training chest that much. But your lats, a bigger muscle group than your chest, is getting like 10 sets per week. That is not really a good thing because the lats are a bigger muscle group than your chest. It should be getting more volume. Or if you want big arms and you're just loading up on bicep exercises while completely neglecting tricep exercises. Hello, triceps are a bigger muscle in your arms. They account for 2/3 of your arms. Why are you hammering away on biceps and neglecting triceps? Make sure that every muscle is getting an adequate amount of volume in correlation to their size. Now, a little thing about volume, because you probably don't know this, but bigger muscles can take more volume per session, but they need longer time to recover. While smaller muscle groups, they can recover extremely quickly, like 1 or 1/2 of days. That is how little time it takes for smaller muscle groups to recover. So you can load up on the frequency on smaller muscle groups, but they can't take a lot of volume per session. So you need to make sure that you're not loading up like 10 sets per session on biceps because they can't really take that. The last 4 sets of your bicep exercises are not going to do anything. They're probably just injury risky. That's all they are. So keep that in mind. Bigger muscle groups can take more each session but need longer time to recover. Smaller muscle groups don't take as long time to recover, but not as much volume per session. Now, the 5th and most important mistake you're making is not having a good mind-muscle connection to your muscles. I didn't have a good mind-muscle connection to my lats when I started, and my lats did not grow at all. You can see on a picture here that my lats are completely non-existent. They don't exist. It's just my upper back that exists. But then after I implemented exercises where I actually felt my lats, where I could feel them working, actually reach failure on them, that is when they started to explode. You can see here the comparison. These 2 pictures are completely different. So you need to make sure that you're actually feeling the muscle on each exercise. Because in order to reach failure, you actually have to feel the muscle reaching failure. Otherwise, you'll probably be reaching failure on another muscle. You don't want that. You need to actively feel the muscle contracting and reaching failure for it to actually grow. It's just like Arnold said, you gotta be in the muscle, feeling it contract, really have that mind-muscle connection for it to completely blow up in size. I hope you learned a bit about these mistakes and are going to correct them, because I sure as hell wish I knew these mistakes before I started lifting. So I hope this helped. Good luck and see you soon.